recording. Okay, so the recording is live now, so I will post this on the Canvas on YouTube and then put a link on Canvas. Okay, so you can have something to go to. All right. So okay. Does everybody see Maya here?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody see it now. You can see. Yeah, that's it. We are recording. Okay, good. So, okay. I'm just gonna. I've been doing some work on this, and I think I got this section nearly finished because the way I'm going to divide my work is like this. I did first all what is the structure, which I think I showed you before is this, and I did all that. Then I did the floor, and then I did sections. So if we're going back to the Unreal project, you can see that this is one section here, okay, and then there is another section here. So I'd say, okay, I'm gonna work per section. I'm gonna work on the pool section. I call the main time section, and then the exit section, and then as well here, which is like the lab section, or like sort of like where you do the clean up and stuff. Here. So I'm gonna be working on those. This is how I say I'm gonna be doing the work. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna do first. I'm gonna start with everything that is the biggest parts, and then I will start working on the individual sets. Like everything that is like simple like this. This is something that I will be doing as an on section. So what I've done in the past when I did this project at the beginning was I block it out, just as the same you did, guys. I block it out, and I think let me see if I can find something. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna open an earlier version of this and see if I can find you the block up. I think I deleted it from here. And you can see here I put things like you see like the exit area, tank area, medical area, and then the main tank area, the entrance power, and all that stuff. So I got these things like this, and then even here the torture area, which is this section here, which is supposed to be in the pool area as well. So I got all that stuff in a single sort of sections here in layers, and I go as well here everything in a wood. Guys, you need to get to the habit of working clean, guys, because it will save you a ton of work, a lot of headaches. So when I block it out, I'm going back to the block, I'll block out the stuff like this. You can see, very simple. And I think let me see if I can open earlier version. I don't know how far I can go with the version. Let me go. I don't think it's in the first version. I'm gonna see if I can open one version here. So I'm all loading up, so I can show you a little bit of the block out that I did. Because we need to go back to the actual initial thought process behind how to put this together. And to let you know, guys, a project like this is still way too big in terms of the thing that you can do in 12 weeks. Guys. This is way too big. Even for me that I've got experience, it's too much. It's unbelievable. So I think here, let me see. You can see here that I color everything. I think here I did already the procedural aspect. I think I did this. No, this is not. So I got it in sections. Here, let me see. Yeah, no. Let me open one before. I think is the one that I can show you a little bit more. This is number 10. Let me see if I go. Because at the beginning when I did this, I put everything in a single mesh, and everything was a single piece, I think. Yeah, you see I blocked it out just like this is how they block out I did it. I took all this stuff and then I literally, you can see nothing, I was, nothing, naming nothing. I said, you know what, I'm just gonna block this out very quickly. And then, so I can figure out how things are. So I blocked everything out in boxes like that. You normally do this. You can see here that this stuff is just simple, just to get the shapes and the scale. The important thing here is that I need to get scale, because if I don't get the scale correct, then I'm be wasting my time. So I put stuff here like boxes and extrude them and something very, very simple. This block out here, later on when I did this, For example, I did this pool, and then when I put it back into my project, I realized that this pool was too big, so I had to shrink it a little bit because I looked at some reference. This wall here is too long from here to here, so I said no, that is wrong. So I had to go for something a little bit like this, and so I decided, okay, this is gonna be the modular bit, but then I'm gonna have to put an extra section in the middle to stretch it, and I need to figure out what section is that, and I need to make it. I made sure that everything was a multiple of 10. You know, like something is 3 meters, 4 meters, 4.5, so I can sort of figure out where things are in space. Because again, here I did this, and then I realized, well, this is too shallow. I need to make it a little bit thicker, and then you start building things like that. So the important thing, guys, is that you need to block it out. Don't worry about nothing. No UVs, nothing. Rubbish. Yeah. And I remember when I did export, I took everything, and then I exported a single FBX, plonk it into Unreal, and then I started walking around. Did a quick bake, a couple of lights, and then I said, okay. So once I do the walking around, I realized, well, that's when I realized, well, this stuff is too big. This pool is way too big. It should be around this section. It should be around like here. Okay. And all that started, you know, like figuring out where things are, you know. And then once I did that, and I said, I went to Unreal and I had roughly the rearrangement where things are. Then I started with my procedural aspect of the project. Okay, and I think that's the one that I just opened for you, which I literally replaced all this by what I think was going to be modular pieces. So I think it's number 10. So in this section here, you see I already started putting things modular. Okay, so I said, well, what am I going to do that is going to be modular? I think here that's breaking everything apart. I think this is yeah, wall structure. I put a wall structure here. So if I hide everything else, okay, some of these are not still in the. Anyway, so you can see here that here I started picking up. You can see that I made a wall a little bit shorter. You thought it was too long, so I made it a little bit shorter, so that was going to be the final one. And then you can see, yeah, but then I started to look at the actual model, how to do the model in as clean as possible. So I did things like the bevels and make sure that it's looking like the way I want it. I said, well, this is, yeah, okay, this is looking more like my reference. Okay, so I can decide, okay, this is going to be one section, this is going to be another section, and this is going to be a section here. So I said, well, if I want to keep this section here to be a single piece, I can say, well, it doesn't matter if I make this guy, you can see bigger, it doesn't matter, you just have to go from one side to another. It's not a problem. And then I decided that this stuff here will be, I don't know, 3 meters or something. I think I decided, and then I would make sure that I have chunks 3 meters, something like here. This is one big, so I decided, okay, I'm still, I think I still haven't here figured out the actual modularity of the project, but I started looking at the sections here that I was going to do. So I said, okay, this is going to be one section, and I copy and paste it, and I went all around. And once I had that, then I said, okay, so I know that I can make the walls modular, except for this one, because this one was too difficult because it was the main door entrance. And I said, well, if I try to put one here and then make sure they match it 1 meter, it was going to be a nightmare. So I could still probably create a section that goes only around this section here, this bit here, and then put another wall that goes from here to here, to here to here. Anyway, so I was still figuring things out, and nothing important in Unreal. I still had a block out that you had before, you saw before, and I started making sure that everything here makes sense. So once I had that, I decided, well, okay, so now that I know roughly the right proportions of everything, I've rearranged things, scaled things down, because like I said, the pool was too big, the walls, this wall section was too big. So I said, okay, because obviously I have to go into the reference. You can see the reference here is huge. Got loads of reference, you know. And still that I got from the film when I was watching the film, and so I can get things like scale, how big, for example. There's a section here that allows me to, for example, things like this will give me a reference from how the width of this and the length of this. So I luckily found the height of this actress, which is 1.53. And then things like here you can see the length from here to here roughly, and then I mean before, the one I showed before, this wall was around here, and then this thing was like nearly towards the middle of the room. I would say that's not gonna work, it's too big. And that is what the block out is about. It will help you sort of visualize where things are in space as well. This is important as well. You can see here how I can compare the height of this with this, so I can sort of figure out how tall she is, and then the section here. And I think I found as well some pictures behind the scene as well that helps. You see, like for example, her height with this. That's a good way of figuring this out. As well here, you can sort of figure out, for example, the length of the arm roughly, and you can sort of figure out the length of each one of these tiles, so you can get the tile correct as well. Here you can see when she's sitting, she's roughly around middle of, just above the belly button, or right between the ribs finishes, just between here and here. So that would be 3 of those, and then you can, you know, if you had all the reference, then you can figure out all these things. And this is one of the tricky parts of the film, though, because this is a film set. There is a lot of fake lighting things that did not come from somewhere. So I tried to match the lighting the best I could. But you have to always bear in mind there's going to be room for interpretation and room for other things, because they not really they change lighting as they move things around. I think I found as well this one, which is quite interesting, and you can figure out as well that the higher this around just below the knee, so you can, you know, have a rough height of things are as well. This was good as well for the reference them to side. I did my own version of this. I didn't do exactly as this. I just did something roughly the same, but. And this is quite important as well, this light as well, because this light is quite old-fashioned. It's good to have. You can see that nothing up there, and this, you know, color light, and you know, the light changed very, very drastically. You can see that this light here, you know, it's just this, or this light move around this section, and it's a TV set, so it's a movie set, so it's always gonna be, you know, some changes and stuff. And for example, here as well, for like the dirt and the grime, a reference for that. This I like it because this is the light under there. It's quite old-fashioned, right? So, and as well, I need to do this with VFX, all the stuff floating around. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I'll figure it out. But for example, this picture is quite interesting because this is like behind the scenes, and this is interesting because this is the actual CG, but you can see it's the CG uncolored, which means that this stuff is the true colors. Because these are true colors, or roughly true colors, because once it's in the film, you know, the color is, they're giving this green tint to everything. So colors are quite changed in terms of like the color grading. So it's been color graded. I like this because the concrete is quite good for the concrete. So yeah, it's just a matter of watch the film and then stop every few seconds, get after a few minutes, get a screen grab, and then get like a reference for you to work. At the moment, I'm going to be working on this texture. But so yeah, so this is pretty much when I did all this block out, and then I went back here and I said, well, okay, I got roughly figure out my eyes. So now I need to establish what is going to be procedural, modular. So I'm going to open the latest, which is the one that here, and then the latest obviously is the one that has everything. So that's when I rebuild all this, and you start. I mean, if you put, let's say I'm gonna choose a wall that is 3 meters per section, and then you start putting together one next to another, and you realize, oh well, okay, yeah, that works. 3 meters work. No, actually 3 meters work because the wall is too big, or whatever reason, you know. And then you end up with the chunks that you need, and these are all the chunks. Everything you see in the walls in that section inside Unreal is done with this. This is it. This is the wall. The wall is this, just this. And this is just, I decided to do. Let me create here a measurement distance. This is 3 meters, I believe. So I'm gonna. So I'm going to snap this here. And I'm gonna snap this here. You can see 3 meters, 300 centimeters, 3 meters. So I decided I'm gonna make this section 3 meters, okay? And then on height, I something that, because it's a movie set, I don't have the real height, so I just sort of eyeball it, and then I get everything to, you know, 8 meters tall. Okay, 8 meters tall. Okay, I don't know why it doesn't go exactly to 8 meters, but it should be 8 meters. You can see it translate wise to 8 meters, and probably doesn't matter anyway. So yeah, it's just floating point error, but that's because it's low. That's fine. So it's 8 meters by 3 meters. Okay, I decided that this is the wall that worked for me. So because I went there and I start, you know, I start building them. So I put here and then I put another one, copy. Okay, this one, 4 meters is a little bit of waste. 2 meters is too much. 5 meters, it's gonna be tricky. I think the sections like, for example, in the corners when you put it, if I put something that I'm gonna end up doing using a wedge, then the rest is gonna be wasted. So you know what? I'm just gonna keep it at 3 meters. So for me, 3 meters work. So this is a section that I use for building every single one of the walls you see in this project here. You can see here, if you select them, you can see this is one section. This is 3 meters. And if I wanted to make, you know, another one next to it, I just press Alt and then you just make a copy next to it. You can snap them, you know. And then you can see that, for example, here I made this one a single one because it was too complicated. I could have just create this as a module and then put a little bit of a wall from here to there, and then from here to there. Doesn't matter. Like I did here, for example. You can see that this section here is this, and then this one goes a little bit out. You see, outside the wall there. You can see this is the wall there. This is here. This is here. It's a little bit out. Doesn't matter. But it's just because I figured that out. And even here, you can see that there was a little bit missing. Instead of trying to build up, I put an extra one there. It's a bit of a waste, perhaps, but it just works. Okay. I don't know why I have another one here. I don't know where I got this one. I think this is one of the old ones actually. Yeah, I don't remember this. Interesting. I don't remember this. Okay, I think that must be pillar. Maybe I took a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, so this one you see I took a little bit of a wall. I think this needs to go. I don't think I need that. I know I leave it there just before I analyze. The same here. You can see that I have an extra piece here on the edge, and it's only to cover this little bit here. You can see there's hardly any seams in there. You cannot see the seams. A little bit of a seam there, but it's too hidden. You know, not able to see anything. And if I see it, all I have to do is grab one decal with a lick and then put it here, and it licks over, and that's it. Done. Nice cover the edge. That's it. So this one will be modular as well. And the thing that took me the most was these two, these pillars, to make sure that they were modular. It's just one. Okay, and I think here as well I got a little bit of a wall, and then even here you can see that there is a little bit missing here to finalize the wall. I put another one that goes out, and it doesn't matter. Same, I did the same here, look, a little bit out. You see, and the same here. So it's a matter of you establishing what works for you. Okay, so the same here, I got 1, 2, and it was a little bit missing here. I put another one there. It doesn't matter. Okay. So once I establish that I have that, and that's something you need to figure this out. So recapping, just block things out. Roughly, doesn't matter how crappy they look. Doesn't matter. You just want to block something out, and then you come back to with that block out, and then you just keep the block out here, and then you start taking, okay, I'm gonna create one wall that is 3 meters, and then you start putting, copy and pasting and snapping, and then okay, that works, you know. And then the reason I kept it to 3 multiples of 10 is because here when I snap things, because I got there snapping at 10 units, you know. That will be, which is the movie, this one, right? I can't remember which. This is for degrees, level, scale, and this is level. This was snapping to the grid. And this will be 10 units. And I say I kept it to 10 units. So if I kept multiple to 10, I can easily, you know, when I make a copy, you see it snaps. I can snap things like that easily. So if I go something like 3 meters and I have a multiple of 10 snapping, I can easily snap walls easily. You see, if I for example take this because of this is, I know it's 3 meters and multiple 10. If I want to make that, I don't have to go and snap it with the pivot point. I have to do it, press Alt, and because I say I keep going, and then it snapped perfectly. See, now this one is snapped perfectly to this one, okay, because I chose my wall to be 0.52a or 2.57. I said 3 meters, and then every time I move it with multiple 10, it will automatically move. Say you have to keep going. You can put in multiple 20, 30, 40, and then you just have to move it. Blah, blah, blah. If you put in 30, it will be perfect for the walls because you have to move it 10 times, and then you go. It's now straight away. Okay, so that's something that I established that way, so it would make my life easy for me. Okay, the ceiling as well, I created just 2 sections, one here and one there, and that's it. See, two sections, and I don't have to worry about anything else. I didn't want to have to go out crazy. The same, I think, for these pillars. I decided how big I want them. I think I decided to be, I don't know, I can't remember, but then you see easily as well. I made them in a way that I can just move it around. Now the important thing is look at all these modular parts. They all have the pivot in a specific point. You see, in a corner. You can put in whatever you want, but ideally put them in a corner. I think the majority of you already know this. So you see, I got them in a corner here. For example, I got an extra section in the middle here that I created. I put as well in the corner. And I kept these multiple tens as well, so I can actually snap them very easily. So here, I think it's this section. You can see this section here. There's multiple things. I think this is 3 meters as well. This one as well, you see where the corner is, the snapping point. This one. I create 2 because I didn't want to create a scale negative or something. Just put it one on one side and another one on the other side. This as well is for the walls in the back, the exit area. This is just one for this. Now this is the main wall, okay, and this is the ceiling, okay. These ones here are the decals that I told you about that I created for the edges, so I can create cracks between. Every time I have 2 sections here to a corner. For example, when I have a wall connecting to this, I can put one of these dudes here, and then I put crack in there very easily. Now, and this is a bit tricky because this one, the way I did it, you can see that the pivot is not 100% in the corner, and this is critical. Because if I have, for example, this, okay, and then I want to put that decal in there, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to snap it here, okay. I'm going to rotate it, I don't know, 90 degrees, for example. And if I want to put this, what I did was when I built this, okay, I built it in a way that I can just easily snap in here to the points. It will be sitting just above this. It's not sitting on top, it's just sitting just above with a little bit of a gap. Okay, and that is a matter of just making sure that you see when it snaps right in there. Okay, and that's how you do these little things, which I'm gonna cover with you. I'll go through the decal for you. Decals more in there in the next 4 weeks. So you should be able to do the decals at the end. So I think there was one that I did. I look in there. That's that one there. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, there is some decals there that I have that I've been using for concrete or grading. Decal corner, I think this one. Frame this, yeah, I think it is. You can see that. Look, I did those, and then I can just put a decal in any corner. Look. So I can move them. And because as well I kept them with the snapping in the corner, so I can easily move them around here, and then just move whatever I want. So there's another one here. Ah, there you go. Come on, pick it up. Because they don't have a. I was looking for. I was making a mistake. I was looking for this icon. Then they don't have the icon because they're not the built-in decals. On Unreal, they're like main decals. You can see this one. I can move it, drag whatever I want. I can make copies. I can rotate them. I can do anything. But the key thing is that I kept them in a way that I can. They will be sitting just above. And it will be just a matter of you taking. I don't know. You say, well, I'm gonna create a decal corner. All you have to do is take these two things, combine them, make a copy, take all this mesh, delete the rest, keep that, re-UV it, and then once you finish, just take the points and then inflate them a little bit out using the normal. That's it. So the pivot point stays right there. The important is the pivot point needs to stay right there, offset, so it's not sitting on top. There's a little bit of an offset. Otherwise, it will be right on top of the other thing, and you will not be able to get a decal. And I show you how to do the decal later on. Okay. So let me undo this. Okay. So now, once I have all these elements, I built it. Or I built the whole world. Okay. And I made sure that everything was like in round numbers. Like I put this thing in the 0, freeze it out, and then I start moving around, and then I create the walls. And instead, I say, okay, I got all the walls built in, whatever I want them. Now I'm gonna open Unreal on the other screen, and then whatever the settings I have in here, I pretty much copy them into Unreal. But obviously, you have to swap the Z and the Y because they are opposite. And that's how, and then you will see that all my world has like you see the numbers, the multiples of 10, and that makes my life way easier. Okay, like for example, you see, for example, this wall, you can see that wall there. Look, there is no like 0.7, 0.72, nothing. Look, 60, 100, 235. I built all these walls in Maya, and then I made sure they were nice round numbers because they should be round numbers because I kept multiples of 10 in my walls, you see. So by keeping multiples of 10 in my wall, I know that if I move my wall to the next one, I have to move it only 300 units on this side. And that would be in X. You can see that this number has now 300 units more. You can see there, look. 250 plus 300, 550. And then it keep going. It's easier. You know, instead of trying to figure out 0.7, 0.2, oh, it's 2. So all this wall structure you see here, okay, which I put in a group, they were all done inside Maya first. So I know that they work. All these things I copying and then create copies of all of them here, and then I rebuild all the walls as you saw in the block out, but with the modular sections. Okay. So with the modular section, I say, okay, this is going to be 300, 350, and then and you will see that it made your life easier because everything is multiple of 10. You can see this field here. You can see 750, 160. So it's easy for me to type them and then find them inside Unreal and Maya, and then just make it work. So you see this one as well here. If you put it there next to it, I kept it, and because it's multiples of 10, you can see the numbers are round. Okay. And the rotation as well because it's been clean. And this one here, you can see, if I put another one next to it, you can see round numbers. Nothing, no headache, nothing. Okay. I kept everything like that, and then I made sure that I have everything clean, and you see, everything that you saw there was built with this, nothing else. So in the meantime, while I did all this, okay, you can see that the modeling is very simple. Okay, very simple. I kept the pivot point right there. Okay, so I created this sort of geometry. Now, the reason I have geometry here, simple, no lines here, is because I use vertex painting shaders inside Unreal for me to create blending of two materials. Okay, but now another decision that I made, I decided to do this as a profile because this is too prominent. If I keep it straight and I keep to do this with a normal map, it will look awful in the corners. So I decided to actually go for this. Okay, and at the end of the day, this is very simple. This is nothing. This is like 600 faces. See, it's nothing major. So it's very simple. This stage you can crunch a lot of polygons to Unreal, and it holds, no problem. Okay. So, and I kept that for everything, that line as well, going along everywhere. So I can have this, you know, this line going in and out, okay? Because otherwise, if I mean, for the walls, I could have kept it. I could have created with a normal map because there's no much of a change. But just for consistency, I created them. So I went along, and they all have the line in the same position. You can see that just there, okay? And they all this. I think this one as well. I think this one is a little bit off, and that's because this is the back. And the reason this is off is because I think it goes with this one is because this one is a little bit longer because that's the one at the entrance. So all these things you need to think about that because you can see that, you know, this thing finishing here and this walls go lower, so that's why there's a longer distance in there. And that's this one. That's the entrance. You see, it doesn't match because it will be something like this when you put it in the engine. So okay, so once I had that, then I decided to do, okay, what's going to be my texturing method? Now, I think I told you before, the texturing method that I use, and I will show you how to do shaders hopefully this semester, be more advanced, is that I decided to use 2 UV sets. Okay, you can have 2 UV sets in Maya with no problem. Just have to do is create them. Okay, and I'll show you in a minute what was the UV sort of methodology that I use. Okay, because I divided everything in 2 or 3 shaders. That's it. Everything you see in Unreal at the moment is only using 2 or 3 shaders. I mean master shaders. Master. Apologies, guys. Every time I use the word shader, I mean materials in Unreal. It's a different word, but at the end of the day, they are shaders. So there are only 3 master materials, and the rest are just instances of all of them. So I created master materials, so I don't have to create every time a material. So as well, that's part of the planning to make your life easier. Okay, so right before I continue, is anybody got questions about this? Anything you want me to recap or rephrase or anything like that? Well, everybody's going. I'm talking my ass off here myself.
No.
Anybody in comparison with the project you did last week? Sorry, last semester?
Sorry, didn't hear you.
Anything in particular? Anything you want me to repeat or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Not
No?
anything
Not-
that I can think of.
Not for me.
Okay. Okay. So the this is just a prep work, guys. It's nothing in terms of like the modeling. I'm not gonna show you how to do modeling or anything because you all know. Now, I think some of you might already spotted that the geometry here is fairly high res, and I think I just explained the reason I have this because I decided to use blending material using vertex painting design in Unreal. So I will have 2 materials blending together. Okay. So the way, for example, I took this. Let's take the simple piece because this is a simple piece that pretty much all of them are the same. So this one here, let me open the UV editor. I created this, I think, with 2 UV sets. But now the tricky thing is for the walls, I did that as to be consistent just in case. But I think for these walls, I never use an extra UV set. I didn't. Okay, because it was not necessary. But for things like this asset, like the ones here, this one's here as a single asset, or this one as a single asset, they definitely I use 2 UVs, and I will tell you at a later stage why I use that. But for this section here, let's ignore the fact that we have 2 UVs because I never use them. I only use 1. Okay, so the reason I decided to use 1 is because that's pretty much how I did it this way. I just didn't want to use it. But now, if I select, for example, the UVs here, you can see that I do 2 UV aisles. Okay, 1 UV aisle that goes here, which is the bottom one, and another one that I use here. Okay, now this section here, okay, has 2 UVs, one here, one there. Now you can see that these UVs are way out of the 0 to 1. You can see that 0 to 1 is only between here and here. Okay, Ignore the fact that I have a texture here. That texture is just something that I brought here just to sort of place the UVs in the right place, so I made them all consistent, so I can offset them. Now, I remember telling you guys that the walls, in order for you to create this level of detail, okay, like for example, if you take a wall like this one, you can zoom in. You zoom into this wall, you can see there is a lot of detail in there. Even when you get that close, it's hardly pixelated. Look. And this is only a 2K texture. Okay, this is only a 2K texture. But you can see that here we have one material, another one here, and another one here. Here, 3 materials. Okay. Now this material here needs a shader. Okay, and this one here needs another shader material. You can see here that this section, the wall, has 2 slots material or element. You have 1, 2. One is a material called Material Instant Wall Structures 01 and Material Instant Wall Tiles. Okay, wall structure, wall tile. So I have 2 materials. Okay, I'm pretty sure you know this, but if you want to have 2 materials section here, you need to make sure that in Maya you have 2 materials assigned to this. Okay, so what you have to do is select, the faces of this, for example. If you want this to be a material, you just right click on this, assign new material, and that's it. You don't have to write it, rename it, change color, nothing. The same with this, another material. And you can see here in the attribute editor that I have 2 materials here. One here, and one there. Okay. Now you can see here that this one is because I was just testing stuff. But if you if you had the materials ready in Unreal, like with this naming here, and if you in Maya say, okay, I'm going to keep the same naming, all you have to do is assign a Lambert here and a Lambert there, and then name it how you want them, the materials you want them inside Unreal. You can name one MI wall tiles, another one MI wall structure ones, and then if you name them like this way, look what I'm already here. As soon as you import it, Unreal assign the material for you automatically here, so you don't have to assign it. That's one trick as well, to make your life easier. So these 2 slots represent these 2 materials that I have. If I had 3 materials, I will have to select one here, one there, one there. But this one here is a single material because this material is 2 textures that I'm going to be blending. One with stripes and one without. And then I blended them by using vertex painting. Has everybody heard or done anything with vertex painting before?
Didn't we do it in for weight painting as well? Didn't we use that?
No. Vertex painting, weight painting is the rigging. I see vertex painting inside here, inside Unreal.
I touched it briefly, but I didn't really understand what was going on.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's the reason I left all this geometry here, because I will be able to paint in here vertex. I mean, just remember that these are vertex, so you can vertex has position, has normal, but you can as well apply a different data, which is color. You can have color attached to this here. And
is it the same as the poly painting that we did in the first term?
No, that's poly paint. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. When you do poly painting in ZBrush, that's exactly what you do. You assign color to every single one of the vertex. Now, if you have something that is 10 vertices, it's going to be very coarse. But if you have something that is 20 million vertices, then it looks very, very defined. Just like texture in Photoshop. If you have a texture that is 256 by 256 and you paint it, you can see the pixelation. And if you have a texture that is 4K by 4K and you paint, then you can see that it's really nice and smooth. The same principle, but this time we're painting in the actual vertex, but not in the texture 2D. Does everybody understand that?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yes.
you can do the same principle in Unreal by merging 2 materials together. And I think I can give you a quick preview of this here. And I think I can't remember how to do it. I think you can. I can't remember how to do the vertex painting here. Actually, I completely forgot. I think I'll have to change the UI. But I show you later on. I can show you. Now it's irrelevant because now that you can. Let me see. Windows Cinematic details. Is it just the? You can here right click, and if they change this. I'll find it in a second, but yeah, you can actually paint here in the vertex. So you can. It used to be around here. I can't remember what it is now. I completely forgot, to be honest. Basics, unless they change it drastically, but modes. Oh yeah, there you go. Brush, mesh paint. You see it's another. No. Yeah. Oh, you see this UI is completely different. Brush. Yeah, I think this is new. You see that wasn't before that. So you do that, and then you can paint. Oh yeah, I can, for example, you see these little green buttons there. Those are the vertex that you find in here. You see. So the more I have, the more I can paint. So if I don't have any of this, then if I paint, I will only paint one color here and then nothing until I paint in the corner here, for example. So what I did was here I painted two materials, and I have a specific, I think it's the red channel. You can paint the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, or the alpha. And then here you can paint alpha. So I think, for example, if I paint there, you can see, look. So here I'm blending between this material and this material. I can do, you see, I can do that. Nice. Okay, if I do the opposite, and if I do, hello, everybody talking? You see, if I do the opposite, then I can actually paint and look. And that's how I blend it. There you go. So this is and this is how I blend as well the floors as well. I have the two types of floor, one that is wet, one that is dry. Okay. Does everybody got that roughly? I will show you the specific how to do all this stuff. Okay. But the point is, you can have geometry to blend between two materials. Like here, you see, I'm blending this texture that I created in Substance Designer with this texture. I'm blending them based on color. And if you want to watch, you can see a view mode, RGB channel. You can see, look, I'm painting vertex. I'm painting color. Look. I can see the alpha channel is this. I can see the red channel. You can see that I'm here. I'm painting. Look in the red channel. In the shade that I said in the red channel, this stuff here will be painted. So if you want to see in color, it means that I brought everything back in. And if I do the opposite, then I will get rid of that. So yeah, so let's see, non-selected. So I will show you later on, guys, how to do that specifically. But I just want you to know that if you plan to blend two textures together, do this. Make sure you have enough geometry. And that's why I have geometry as well in the floor. You can see here on the floor, because I can paint what I want, dry concrete and wet shiny concrete. You see, and that's how you see, for example, in YouTube those tutorials on how to do like water paddle. They do the same. They paint where they want the water paddle by having geometry in there. If you don't have geometry, you will not be able to paint them. Because if I have, for example, one point here and one point there, and if I paint, because I'm painting in the vertex, it will blend from here to nothing. And it will be too much a transition. You will see like a line because there's not enough geometry. But this geometry is enough because that will make sure that the two textures blend nicely together. Okay. So, and that's how you can see that the floor, for example, goes some section that has some dry patches and some wet patches, and that's because I blend two materials together. You can see here. Look at the highlight there. Let me come to this though. That's how I merge them together. Okay, so going back to Maya before we finalize it, because I need to start seeing new projects and new stuff. Okay, so again, when it came to doing this, I said, well, okay, how am I going to do that? Okay, so this is the decision time, guys. Again, to recap, the UVs, the materials, I put one material that goes here and one material that goes in this section, and that's why I have two slots in the material in the geometry. Here, 1, 2. If you have one here, another one there, another one there, you will have 3 slots. Okay, that's something you have to decide. Here in this case, I decided that I was going to have only 2 materials, one for this section, okay, and one for this section. And that's it. All I did was select this, right click, assign new material, and I rename it, and then blah blah blah. It had to be any material. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Any material will do, lumber, whatever. Okay, so once you have that, it comes like the critical point, guys, your tensile density. And this is like man, what you have to work out. And this is the stuff that takes a little bit of time if you don't know what you're doing. At the beginning I was like, how am I doing that? So it's a bit of a, it's not like I knew exactly what to do. I just didn't know. I just said, okay, I'm gonna try this section, and then I'm going to see if this gives me enough detail. So I said, okay. And I'm a sucker for it when it comes to naming convention. You can see here that I put things like always naming, guys. I mean, it is very important. So and the thing as well, other thing as well that I advise you guys, go online and type Unreal Engine 4 naming convention, and then they have naming convention for like SM, like static mesh. They go like things like TX for texture. There's loads of naming, so try to follow those naming conventions, because that will make your life as well easier to inside when you work a project that is massive and you can organize things. Okay, so I call this guy SM 300 by 300 trim reference. I say, okay, this is going to be my 300 by 300 tile. Okay, I decided, oh, this one with my brush. This is the one I select now. No, okay, now it works. You select everything but this. That's interesting. Okay, concrete structure. Okay, now it does it, but here it doesn't do it. Okay, now it does. Correct, I didn't do that. Anyway, so I decided, okay, this is going to be, I went here and I said polygon, this thingy, okay, and I said I'm gonna make this dude 300 by, no, not like that. I made it 300 by 300. Okay. In this case, it doesn't matter how many division you add to it, because it's only for you to reference. Okay. So I said to myself, okay, this is the stuff that I'm going to be using to create my reference. Okay. So I decided, okay, how much details I want to see in my walls when I'm walking around in my project, in my lab, and I said, okay, I want to see this much detail. I want to say, I'm gonna guess. Every time I look at my wall and I see a wall of 3 by 3, I say I want to see scratches. I want to see a good definition in the albedo map. I want to see good definition in the scratches, good definition in holes and things like that in the normal map. I don't want to see, as long as I'm close to it and I'm like a meter away, I don't want to see pixelation. That's my decision. I decided to do it that way. And I think I initially did it with 2 meters by 2 meters, and it was too much. So I said 3 meters by 3 meters would do it. Okay, and this is the one that I use when I started prototyping my materials in Substance Designer. I was doing it, and I said, okay, this is going to be my concrete starting point. I did the stuff for all the nodes and things, and I imported this guy, because you can import an FBX inside Substance Designer. You can, and you can actually do the baking as well. You can do a lot of things in Substance Designer. You don't necessarily have to be only on Substance Painter. In fact, these things that you see here, let me show you this flange, this thing that you see here, this all the things with metal, this and these things, I actually textured them in Soften Designer. I imported it and I did the baking and all that. So you can do baking and all those things inside Soften Designer. Just for me, because I was like curious about it, yeah? And I found somebody did it. I said, okay, I'm gonna try it. And they said, okay, it's okay, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a big difference. I just know that it can be done. So anyway, so I say, okay, if I'm 1 meter away from my wall and I look up, I don't want to see pixelation. If I have something like 3 meter by 3 meter and it has a good design, good prototype in terms of texture and detail. So I created my first base prototype of my texture wall thing inside Substance Designer, and I imported this dude, this one, and I assigned that into the viewport, and I assigned the texture to it, and I say, okay, so if I'm looking at this, I see a low detail, and then I realized that, oh, actually the settings that I've been using to create my texture in terms of tileable aspects of my texture inside Designer, it was too big, it was too small, so I adjusted. And I say, okay, so now I know that when I'm using a 2x2 multiplication or dividing in my procedural texture, I know that I'm hitting the target that I want in terms of detail myself as a user, as the character running around inside the project. So I decided, okay, 3x3 meters it is. Okay, so I said, okay, this is cool. I like this. I'm happy with this. So I UV it, basic UV it. Top UV, planar, fit 0 to 1, done. Once you do that, and this is the crucial bit, once you do that, it's pretty much the same. 3x3 doesn't make any difference in terms of UV because it's all going to be unitized in 0 to 1. So this is 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. This is like the space. Just remember that if you have this anywhere, it will always be the same because this stuff always repeats. Okay? So it doesn't matter where you put it. It will always be, as long as you put in a 0 to 1 on this box. That's why these boxes go forever. Okay? Because it will repeat itself. This texture will repeat itself. But if you have a tileable texture, which is what I'm doing in Substance Designer, then this stuff can go here, 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 here. It doesn't matter because I will never have a seam because the texture is tileable. The texture is supposed to be tileable because I made it in Substance Designer. Okay, old school before you had to go and Photoshop, offset the texture 50%, 50%, then pin the seam and then put it back together and then you make it tileable. It's always going to be a little bit of a tileable issue in there. But with tools like Substance Designer, you don't have to worry about that because they are procedural textures and they are all tileable by nature. Okay, unless you don't want to make it tileable. Okay, so I decided, okay, so I take the next step you to do is this, take this guy. And then here you put how big those maps you want them to be. 2048, and you hit this button. Get. This button, for example, will be something like this. 1. And you say, well, I decide that this is going to be my texture density. This. Okay. And you say, okay, I have this. You hit this button. Get. You can see they gave me the same number. So now I obtain this number, which is a multiplier of whatever texturing I do after that I know is going to be tileable. I have to set it to this point. So let's see what happens if I, for example, if you get UV in this and you take, let's say that you have the classic 0 to 1 here. Okay, you have something like this. This is what you normally do UV. You see 0 to 1. Okay, but if you want to follow the same procedure that you have with this, because you know that this dude is 3x3. So if you have this, okay, and I think, for example, yeah, you can see it here. You can see here that if I keep that, you can see how big these lines are. That's because I broke the tensile density. Now look at these lines; they are more accordant. Look, because this one, it have the tensile density applied to it. You see? So what you have to do for everything that you know is going to be tileable, once you obtain this number by selecting your starting point, I said this dude is going to be 3x3, that's what I want, 2K, get the number. And from then, you take this, let's say you do these UVs, let's say forget about that cut or whatever. You say, okay, these are going to be my UVs, fine. Then you say, okay, I'm going to have this texture density applied to this, because at the end of the day, this guy is 3 meters and this guy is 3 meters. So if I have this guy like this, it should be this level of detail that goes around here. You see one there, there should be another one there, it should be about 3. Okay, this is like 3 by 8, that's 24 square meters. So you know that this guy is broken, it's not the right. So you select this guy. I don't know if you have to select the UVs, I can't remember. And you hit the button set. Look what happens when I do set. They scale up. So now, look at this. Now this guy has the same scale as this. Okay? So by having this in place, 3 meters by 3 meters, when you do your UVs, when you do the texturing procedurally in Zaplan, you know then now how big your bricks are going to be, how wide these lines are going to be. So if you don't have that, you could be doing something that is, when you put in here, is going to be too small or too big. That's why it's very important that you set up this from the beginning. Okay? And the other reason as well that I have, for example, these UVs, like for example here, is because I can offset them whatever I want to make sure that I don't have anything like, for example, like this, like it starts like for example, like here you see like halfway there like this. You want something to start right at the edge here, for example, the line here or the tile. See, you don't want the here. You don't want this to be like one tile missing and a little bit of a thing there and halfway there. That's horrible, because you will see that, you see, and it's like, oh, this stuff, what happened with the bit in here? So it doesn't make sense. So you have to make sure that you put them in a way that when you put them inside the Unreal, it makes sense. You can see now that I left the edge right here nicely, because that's how I put it. I make sure that I offset these UVs a little bit down. And it doesn't matter what I put it at the end of the day, because it is all tileable. Look, I would never have a seam really. But I think the seam here is because it's something else. I think that's because of this guy, I think. But that's because I know what it is. It's because one has a normal map and the other one has a normal map. So that's fine. It works. Ignore this. It's fine. So yeah, I think so this is how you do it. So you can see now this one matches that, and then you just take the UVs that you know the way it's go, and you just put them where they should be. You know, I think that one that's there. This one as well, you can do the same. Look, you can match them. If you want to got these little lines to be right in the middle, then you just move it to be like right in the middle. You can just move it down like this, and then you know that this little dot will be right in the middle. Okay. So and that is the starting point. That is what you need to start. You need to start with something clear from the beginning, so, and you stick to that, and then your project will unfold with no problem. Again, to recap, the reason I'm doing this is because this will give me a guideline for me to know how big my bricks are going to be, okay, and how big, for example, these lines are going to be. So when I'm prototyping my project, I know that if I'm doing, let's say, I don't know, paint bubbles for example, in this section, I know that if I stick to the for example here, paint bubble, if I don't have a precise work, I might be painting a bubble inside Zaplan Designer doing it, and the bubble will be like that big. I say, well, no, I want it like this small. Those are the small one. And then by knowing the reference, by bringing in your reference when you're doing that prototyping or your texture, you know that, okay, if this is the size of the brick, then I want the bubbles around this. So when you set up the settings inside Zaplan Designer, then you know that you will have that in a way that it makes sense and it's cohesive along the whole project. Okay, that's to make your life easy, guys. So I think one of the things that you need to get used to, guys, is prepare your work, be clean with your work, and set up the initial prep work. Make sure that it's in there, guys. Do not bypass it, guys. The majority of the issue you have, and I've seen in the project, is that you bypass that. You take that for granted. It's like, I don't need that. It's okay. And then at the end, guaranteed, bite you in the ass. And if you want to produce something that looks good in terms and consistent, you need to have that prep work. You know, otherwise you will start seeing things that like they don't look right. Okay, and this is one way of fixing this, is by making sure that you are consistent with your work, by doing the necessary prep work that you need in order to accomplish a good piece of work. Okay, and this is things like naming convention, organizing things in project, naming, all that stuff is very important. You can see it. When I do my work, I always have things in folder. I have everything in a folder. Block out. I had the block out, original block out. You can see the block out here is it's very horrible. I think at the moment it's just a block out section here. And then I got the concrete structure. You see everything's in the folder. I got the decals. I got all the lighting. I got the main tank, which is in this side. You can see this is part of a single folder now. Look. And I got the pool as well in a single folder. And all the VFX as well is in there. And as well all the lighting. These are the cameras that I have to put some of this stuff I just imported in second notes. For example, this one is part of the main tank that I imported not long ago. So I'll take these two, middle click and drag, and I put them in the main tank. Like that. And this, now they are part of it. Okay, so it is very important that you establish that way of working from the beginning. In terms of things like multiples of 10, that for me it worked that way. If the project allows you to do that, obviously, you have to make sure that you have the pivot point in the right place, things like that, guys. The other thing as well that I tell you is that, for example, like for the floor, yes, it's great with the pivot point in the corner, but for these elements like this, it's quite tricky. So what I do is because the floor is no procedure, it's no modular. What I've done is for everything else, I have look at the pivot point. It's always in the same place. See, look, the pivot point is always in the same place for all of them, apart from a few things in there. There are the pivot point here. But pretty much what I've done is for this is I put the pivot point snap to a single point in the middle. So you can see here that in Maya, it's actually snapped to the floor. And for example, if I see this, you see it's a snap here. I snap that point to here, to this point. So every time when I bring something like that inside Unreal, I know that I had to snap it to that point in the floor in Unreal, and I don't have to work out numbers or anything. The same with these things like this. For this as well, it has in a specific section. You see this pivot point goes everywhere, which is as well one point that I decided to pick from the floor. Yeah. See this point in the floor, this point here. Look. So I decided to put that point there, and every time I bring it inside Unreal, I snap it to that point in the floor here. See all this stuff, it has the same point. Look. Everything in there. This one, no, is there because it goes in the wall. But the swimming pool is all there as well. This one, you see, this one, even this one had the same pivot point, so it's according to that. It's just a matter of finding this one as well. All the grid as well goes in the same point. Okay, it makes your life easier. This one as well, this thing as well, had the same point as this, and this, and this. They all have the same pivot point. So you know, and when you bring it, you snap it there. That's it. You have to work out numbers. But this is a bit more precise. This is not what the word. This is no modular. Okay. Because it's a whole asset. It's a mix. I call it a big asset, small asset, and then the actual modular section. So that's about 3-4 shaders. So so that's that for the modularity of this, and I think that's enough for this now. Then next week I'll show you the second UV section, and then we're gonna dwell a little bit more into the actual part of how the shaders work. But I think before we do that, I will give you a primer on Soften Designer, so you can actually start doing your textures in Soften Designer. Every single texture you see here is done in Soften Designer, every single one. Apart, even the decals I didn't in Soften Designer. All this lettering stuff, Soften Designer. All these stripes in Soften Designer. Even the cracks that you see here somewhere that I showed you, this crack, Soften Designer. You can do it in ZBrush if you want. That works as well. The only thing that I haven't done here is some of these leak images, like during this leakage like this. I didn't. I just found them free on the internet. It's leaked out, but you can see it leaking. I didn't. I found the internet. And I just tweaked it a little bit and changed the color, but I didn't do the procedure. But you could do it procedurally because it's small enough. But it was too much for what I needed, so you know what I said. It's fine. So again, at the moment I'm working on preparing the material for this. If I see the reference, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the material for this. You can see this is I need to do this material. Now this material is sort of greenish. See, it's sort of greenish and it's more metallic-y. Then I have this is already done. It's bluish, and this as well. So I'm gonna do is all these pipes. I'm gonna do them with the same material at this and at this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep them gray, and then in the shader I tint them instead of me trying to pick what's called eyeball the color. That's what I want to do. That's my plan. So that's something that I decided to do it that way because I'm gonna try if it works. You can see they're quite greenish, sort of green, and this is a bit more bluish. So and as well, all these colors will come from the actual lighting as well. So I have to put some lighting up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna neutralize them. I'm gonna keep the rust with the color, but this I'm gonna keep it gray. And then in the shader, I put a system that I can actually blend, tint this with a color. And once I do that, then it will be meant for me to easy to just do that instead of me trying to sample this color, make sure it's exactly the same. I just tint them in the shader. You can see here. I'll give you another example. You can see this is a high res one. This is good. You can see this is a little bit more greenish. This is a little bit more neutral color. So it's a little bit of blue. I just tint them in the shader. I have to do all these pipes. All these pipes I'm gonna produce them with only 3 or 4 things. That's how I did this. These pipes in the wall. All these pipes here. So they just, for example, you can see it here. You can see they're just pipes. You see that I put together. I'm gonna use the same to build all these pipes around here, and I already started doing it inside here. So you can see this is a big ass project, so I'll tell you guys, do not take something like this with your project because you will not be able to finish it in 12 weeks. No, you can't do it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. It's just that it is too time consuming and you don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do this, and I know a lot of things I have to do it. Obviously I've got a job and stuff and I can't do it, but all this pipe that are gonna run here is gonna take me forever. So what I've done is I selected this section of pipes. So I'm gonna do everything with this. All the stuff you're gonna see there built, I'm gonna build it with this modular section. That's all I need. I go this and that's it. One connection, one tube, one clip to connect them, one corner, and one to change the width. So I can go from a thinner pipe to a thicker pipe by putting this together and then scaling this down, guys. And then I make sure the pivot is right in the middle, so when I scale them with no problem. And then I put a seal to it, and I scale the seal, or whatever this case is, a little bit bigger. So I scale this guy, and then it matches that. And the same with this ending, and then the same with this clip. And then with all this, I'm gonna build all the crazy stuff that goes in here, which I'm not looking forward to, because look at them, man, there's too many. Just to see them, I just don't know how I'm gonna do that. And then when I want to make this nice and with licks, I just put decals to make sure that the decals go in line. So, which means that when I do the shader here, I'm going to neutralize the leakage of the shader. I am not gonna do what I found in this reference. This reference is what I'm gonna use. I'm not going to do leakage because the leakage is directional, and then because some pipes are going sideways, up and down, can you imagine a leakage going like this or like that? It will kill it. They all have to go down. So what I do is I don't add leakage into the system, or I can have another texture that is only for leakage and then blend them, or I can just do decals and then make the leakage in the decal going down that way. That could work. So that's something that I need to decide. So you see there's more pipes in there, more pipes, tons of things and assets. So yeah, it's a pain in the ass. But it's going to look good once it's finished, just that it takes a long time. I think I worked yesterday all day just putting it together. You can see I added this asset. I added this one as well. I added these sections on the side here, and then these are just copies. And for example, like the system has 2 valves here, so I didn't want to do the valve. I just took these ones, and then this one down here, and then scale them down, and then rotate them, and then go some valve in there. I might make a copy of the shader and then tint this with a little bit of a different color, maybe some greenish bluish, so I can make it a bit more unique. Because all the shaders that I have, they will have the. I make sure that I put the ability to tweak things like the roughness, tweak things like the color, and they all have that built-in capability. You can see here the shader that I think I've got the ability here somewhere to base color multiply, so I can base tint. I can put a different color here, I can put yellow, green, whatever, and then tint the whole thing. So I can do that. It has to be quite tricky because it's more rough than the rust, and I want to tint the rust. Accommodate for that. So yeah, I think this is a pre sort of workout you need to do, guys. Please working all this out, because for your project, if you don't have that, if you don't have that, then you will you will be like, I don't know, chasing your tail. You don't know where you're going. So make sure that you have all that clear from the beginning, and then once you have that, then you will be able to produce your piece of work. Okay. I will show you, like I said, later on about the vertex painting and all that, and I'll show you how that is set up. It's very simple, honestly. Vertex painting is so simple. A couple of nouns and you get it done. But the point is you have to have geometry for you to paint. Okay. So, right. Okay. So, any question you got about all this process, guys?
I've got no question.
Anybody else?
I mean, obviously, I didn't get all completely how you're gonna do, how exactly we do all the stuff. But you said you're gonna explain later on a few of the things. I think when you
Well,
explain it.
I mean, is there anything, guys, that you want me to repeat? Honestly, anything. Come on, guys. Ask me. Look, can you repeat the part, I don't know, about the textile density or whatever? So I can repeat it. But if you, I mean, that's what I'm here for. I mean, there's no shame on that, guys. I mean, if you think that is something that wasn't clear enough, because at the moment I'm just giving you guidelines as a general, the project, okay? Nothing specific. I haven't gone in depth like how to do the textures or how to do the actual materials in Unreal, which we're going to do next, okay, in the next few weeks. But what I want you to know is that this is all the prep work that I did in order for me to set up the foundation of the project. If you don't have that, if you don't have an idea where you're going, you plan ahead your journey, man, you don't know where you're going. Like, it's the same with this. If you don't plan ahead and see, okay, this is how I'm gonna do this, then it's going to be quite difficult, you know. So because you don't have a set plan of how to work this out, the modularity, the texture density, the elements, what are you going to be doing together, what is not. So that's something you need to figure out from the beginning, okay? And this is all what I'm telling you. I tell you about the multiples of 10, the pivot point, how I did the block out first, how I did. So I expect you guys, if you got the block out, you should have the block out ready for next week, and then you will start saying, look, how can I tackle this modularity? And then that's how we're going to discuss it individually, all of you. Okay, but again, yeah, I haven't gone into any details. Like, for example, another plan that I have, for example, for this, if you go into the reference for this, look at this. Can you imagine me doing this? All these buttons, all these things.
I can.
Me. I will. It will kill. I will kill. I will end up hang myself, you know, because this is. Look at this. So I got a plan for that. So what's my plan?
And what's the plan?
The plan for that is I'm gonna create a modularity. I'm gonna create like a plane with, I don't know, 25 or not 25, like 3 meters by 3 meters, and then I'm gonna model all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 variation of each, these buttons and stuff. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it in a way that if I want to add a button to a panel, all I have to do is cut out a piece of geometry from there and then snap it on top, and then it will be one shader that holds everything, one 4K texture that holds everything. Once I do that, I can mix and match, and I can put all this stuff together very quickly. That's my plan anyway. I don't know if it's going to work. So things like this, panels like this with buttons and screws and switches and measurements and handles and slots, all that stuff, I have to do one modular kit that does everything like that. But look at this, it gets really, can you imagine all these buttons? It's like, you're not going to be able to do it. You know, it's too much. So I got a plan for that, and hopefully it will work out. Because let me show you another section. Like here, you can see, look at this. So in this, for example, this is like a sort of like a LED reader, right? I think I'm gonna make a lot of things. So what I can do is I can create one thing that has one, and then when I do the model of this, I'm gonna keep it plain like that, but then I'm gonna cut out a little bit of the geometry that I've done already into in a bake, and then I just wanna put them there and make a copies of all of them. The same with these sections. I'm gonna create one row of this, and then I make copies of all of them in the low res, and then I put a decal on top to make it a little bit more unique. This section here, this stuff here, is same as this one. Look. So I'm gonna create one with this, and then another one with the buttons rearranged differently, 2 or 3, and then I will just copy and paste. Then I just modular. Look, they're modular. And then these buttons here, I can make them individual, and then I can just move them around and then make copies. Because otherwise, I will not be able to do that. I will make one that is just a plane, and I just when I'm high enough, I can just put a plane on it. You know, and then things like the griddle as well. All that stuff I need to establish all that, which I have plenty of reference. I've got loads of reference of those specific sections. And I think I got, maybe I haven't loaded because I don't need them at the moment, but I do have a section where I have just to have these elements. So the same with these connectors like this. I'm gonna create a library of 10 of them, and then I'm just gonna copy and paste them when I need it. Here, when I need it. And that's another plan that I have for this. So, but yeah, you see, I can have another. You can, instead of doing this individually, then you do that one that is high res, and then you just copy all of them, copy and paste them. Again, that's like sort of establishing what is the plan, what's the modularity of this, because it will doing this individually, no way, man. This is too much. All I do is I'm gonna do the cases. And in the case you can see this because I have in the shader the ability to tint the albedo, I will put a black to tint it black, and then I will have one that is black, but it's gonna be the same shader. And then yeah, I think that's the plan, to just have all these modular. I'm gonna create like a library, like a build-up kit, and then if I wanna do something, I'm just gonna cut it and then put them in their individual places, and then that's it. And then things that are not going to be like geometry, I just use decals, like the ones I use on the floor here. Things like this that I have in the floor here, like this. You can see here, these are decals. Look. This is how I did those lines there, look. If I want to have a label, I put a little bit of geometry inside this thing, on top of these things there, I'm going to go there with a little bit of a label that I did, a label system that I did. Because at the end of the day, this section here has a decal. This is a decal that I did in Substance. Let me show you quickly before we go. Yeah, look. I did a decal in Substance. Yeah, for just the signs, look. So I have plenty of space. So when I got this open in Substance, so I put more stuff in here, more writings. I have space for all these. That's how I did a tank in the floor, keep clear track, caution, and slippery. And then all I did was I take the chunk in here and I move it around to that section. You see this section here.
Would that be a good? Because I want to have posters in my one. Would that be a good way of doing that?
Yeah, look. That's right. Yeah, that's decal. You can see I moved this, but I said, well, I don't like this one. What I have to do is here. So you can do it. I'll show you that later on in more stages when you have a bit more developed. But the point is, this class is for you to set up the initial work. Okay, the initial work in terms of your plan. For example, you say, well, I like this decal, but I don't like it because I got a big patch missing. No problem. You take it here and you move it. And you say, oh, I like it right there. That's it. that's because I already have a decal that is tileable. This stuff is tileable because I did it in Substance Designer. These lines are tileable. These stripy lines are tileable. These are not, obviously, because they are unique classes. Okay, the same here. If I say, if for example, if I'm going here, let me undo this, and I said, well, actually, I like, what is it? Yeah, for example, I take this. I said, well, I made a mistake. It's not supposed to be keep clear here. It's supposed to be, I don't know, it's supposed to be caution slippery. I'll move it. Look. Now it's caution and slippery. You see? And this one here is for the number of the tank here. That's because I did that with the tank. And that's, what is the tank floor thing? This one, yeah. This section here is that number 2 here. Tank 2. You can see it here. And on Unreal, that's what it is. Look at tank 2. And these are just decals. Just pieces of geometry that are sitting just on top of the geometry. You cannot see them. Look, you think that is part of the texture, but it's not. It's actually geometry inside Maya. Look, the geometry. What is that second? Let me show you. This line, this one. Look. Those lines here are just lines. If I have them here, which are in the UV, I can move whatever I want. I can move in there because it's tileable. It will not have a seam. I can go all the way outside. It's tileable. So if I put it right in the middle, I will not see a seam in the middle. Look, because this stuff is tileable. Okay, and then you can see that once you put them inside Unreal with the shader, look, it just looks like part of the texture. But when you zoom in, look at the level of detail. Look, you will not be able to get that if you paint the whole floor in a 0 to 1 space. Can you imagine painting the whole floor and this space here? Look how big the floor is. Look, that's why you have the detail, because it's tileable. The floor is tileable. The floor is texture that I designed. I did in Substance Designer, and it's tileable. So that's why when you are here, it looks nice, and even when you are right here, it still looks nice. You can see, look, hardly any pixelation in the cracks or anything like that. Because it is tileable. So the key to do things here to the texture is tileable material. Tileable material, tileable material. That's it. I will show you how to do all the decal things. I will show you how to do the rest of the stuff. But now, guys, it's important. Have your project ready in terms of how are you going to tackle modularity and how you're going to tackle good detail. And that is tensile density. Something you need to establish now, like this week. Okay? Because just remember, next week is week 3 already. Okay? So you need to be proactive, you need to do it. Otherwise, you will run out of time, you're going to have the same problem as before. Okay? Do not cut corners, guys. If you cut corners, you will not be able to produce the quality you want. Okay? So again, like I said, this is only what I explained to you is my thought process of how I tackle the problems and how I tackle tensile density, how I tackle modularity, and my thought process behind it. You will have your own thought process, but you need to do that work. You need to do it. Do not bypass it and then thinking that something, a miracle is going to happen and everything's going to turn out good. Because it's not going to turn out good if you don't plan it. Okay? Any questions? Any other question before I finish this up?
I have some, but they're unrelated.
Okay.
It's more about my project. I'll talk to you about it after.
Well, I think once let's finish that, and then I'll start sharing your screen because I want to see it. Okay.
Sorry.
So once we finish this, share your screen, and then we have a look.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So I'm gonna stop the recording of this, and then I'm gonna upload this tonight, guys, for you. Okay. So you can have a look and then can review this when you're doing this with your project. You're tackling your modularity system. Okay. Okay, that's it, guys. I'm gonna stop this now.